Morning everybody, happy Sunday. It's day 28. We are so close to the 30 days of daily language diary videos. Now in yesterday's video, we talked about how to find authentic language learning content. And in that episode, I told a few little stories like when I was in Finland and how I went about finding some Finnish novels to sort of keep in my stockpile as motivation. And I also talked a little bit about these strategies that I've used in times when I was in Lyon, France, and how I would go to bookstores as a way to sort of create opportunities to converse with bookshop owners or workers as a combined strategy to also find awesome book recommendations for authentic resources. So I really enjoyed telling those stories and it seems like a lot of you really enjoyed them. So today's question comes from Matthew Downs and it's one that I think gives me a great opportunity to do a little more just like motivational, inspirational storytelling today on this beautiful Sunday. So Matthew Downs writes in, how do you stay motivated when life gets hard or busy? Do you listen to other stories? Do you compartmentalize life? Do you use meditation, prayer, or reflection? So I actually get asked this question quite a lot because as many of you will know, I am this sort of bundle of energy, an endless fountain of motivation and excitement, and I'm just always very, very motivated to wake up the next day and do it all again. And it does seem like this is something lots of people struggle with, just maintaining this level of motivation to just keep going. And the funny thing is, the last few years have been kind of a never-ending period of just life being way too busy, and in many ways way too hard to especially study languages the way that I really wish I could. Now honestly, the biggest thing that I always rely on and that never ever seems to fail me, it's knowing how unbelievably delightful all of this is going to be one day and how big the payoff is of successfully learning a foreign language. Now I do think this is a little bit easier for me at this particular stage in my life because I've already had so many just absolutely splendid experiences learning foreign languages. And so I'm definitely able to lean on those experiences and those memories, and it helps me stay very motivated because I can't wait to have all those types of experiences and many more again. And I think that's part of the value of these kind of storytelling style videos because it helps people that maybe haven't had as many of those experiences before, or just in general, it's so great to hear other people's experiences through life. And there's nothing better than just a really darn good story. And so for me, sometimes these are the subtlest of things. So I actually have had very little time, unfortunately, to engage in many of my favorite language learning activities over the last few years. As many of you will know, I was writing my book, I'm building Journaly, there are all these things we've talked about a lot. But so it certainly could be a bit demotivating that unfortunately that's just something I had to sacrifice. I haven't been able to really engage in reading novels in languages I've learned, and that's one of my favorite things in the world. I used to just devour foreign films in the languages I had learned, but I've had the chance to watch very few films in the last few years. But the thing is, the memories I have of doing those things are so sweet. It's almost something I can taste. It's that just darn good. And I know that soon I'll be done with many of these huge projects and so much time is going to open back up to do those things. For some reason, the story comes to mind of when I was living in Montreal and I had started reading a book called Le Grand Monde several times. It's a French novel that I really love. I don't know why. I think it's particularly close to my heart because it is one of the first French novels that I really tried to tackle and struggle through. And so I decided I was gonna start reading it from the beginning and try to get all the way to the end. And I just remember every night I would go to bed and that book would just be waiting for me on the little ledge next to the bed. And I can't describe just the feeling of kind of like warmth and coziness of just nestling into my little corner in bed and just reading another chapter or two chapters. The best moments are the ones when you know you really should go to sleep, but you just can't put it down. Just one more page turns into one more chapter. Now, those of you who were following my Korean from Scratch series when I was living in Montreal will know that I ended up moving to Finland quite abruptly, where I didn't stay very long. That was a crazy time, both in my life and also on this channel. So if you want a wild ride, feel free to go check out that whole period of videos where I was like Montreal, then Helsinki, then back in the UK. All of a sudden I'm in Italy, then I'm back in Barcelona. But so I didn't actually get to the end again. I got much further, but I still didn't finish that novel. So both the memory of how just beautiful that entire period of my life was with respects to reading that novel. And then also knowing that I still haven't finished it. The ending is still waiting for me. It's on that bookshelf over there. That is deeply motivating. And I actually have this with several languages. I have multiple novels in Japanese. Even my favorite one that I mentioned in yesterday's video, Yogisha X no Kenshin, I haven't actually finished that story because it is so unbelievably difficult. Oh, those of you who watched my series about the joys of reading in foreign languages, where I was documenting myself reading my first Spanish novel, well, that was also during that crazy period, and so life changed very quickly. I moved to Italy at that time, and so unfortunately I never did finish reading that book, but oh my god, I was reading El Tiempo entre costuras, and oh my god, the joy and excitement I feel bubbling up from inside of me when I imagine getting back. Oh my god. And that particular story was also made into a TV drama, which is available on Netflix. And so I had this little plan of like how I'm gonna watch the TV drama after I finish reading the novel, and I'll compare and contrast. So even things like that, which are not these kind of epic stories of going to the country, even just things I can do in my home, anywhere in the world, those memories and those things are so dear to my heart, and so those are deeply motivating. But of course, there are also those other types of things that I also look forward to. The funny thing is, I've lived in 9 countries at this point, and I moved countries about 15 times in the 5 or 6 years between when I went to Japan and then when I came back to the US and later moved to the San Francisco Bay. So I have been to quite a lot of places, but the funny thing is I haven't had almost any opportunity to just travel. Almost everywhere I've been, I lived there. Which, by the way, it is an unbelievable thing to live and spend extended periods of time in different places. But at the same time, I was incredibly poor during that entire period. And it was a unbelievable emotional roller coaster. I was homeless several times. These are all other things that you've probably seen if you followed my videos for a long time. And so I did have some of the most unbelievable experiences, and some wonderful stories came out of that whole period of my life. But it was mega stressful. Oh my god, there wasn't exactly a lot of time to necessarily enjoy what I was doing in the moment. And over the last 2 years since I moved to San Francisco and I had a career change, I have finally had the ability to take vacations, but I haven't taken a single vacation because I've been working so hard on Journaly, and I decided that I wouldn't take a vacation, I wouldn't take a rest until Journaly was launched. And of course I didn't know it was gonna take me this long. So I have still done almost no actual just traveling, or even like maybe an extended visit to a place, but where it's planned that way and it's financially feasible, and where I can actually just enjoy all those language skills that I've built up over the last 10 years. So you see, like, I could just keep going and going and going. So many stories, but also so many things I look forward to. Now, if you're a particularly eagle-eyed viewer, you may have noticed that this magazine has popped up in a lot of my videos, and I used to have a whole series of them lined up behind me in one of my old scenes. Well, that's a magazine called Drift, and it's all about coffee, and every issue is about a different city in the world and that city's coffee culture. Now, one of my favorite volumes is actually about Stockholm, and as many of you will know, I've been learning Swedish for a long time, and I still have basically never spoken Swedish to a person. And oh my god, as I flip through those pages, as I read the articles and the stories, and as I look at photographs of Stockholm, I cannot wait to go to Sweden for the very first time, and to go to Stockholm, and to wander around the city, and to just immerse myself not just in Sweden and Swedish culture, or the city of Stockholm and that particular subculture, but to explore the coffee shops and all these different scenes and places I've been reading about, to experience the feeling of like ordering coffee and having those first conversations. And again, I've had this experience many times where the first time I set foot in the country, I'm already speaking the language to a decent level of fluency. But that doesn't happen many times. I mean, you can only learn so many languages, especially to fluency, before going to the country. And so it's very special and very motivating knowing that I still have that with Sweden and Swedish. It's waiting for me, and it's gonna be glorious. So I think you get the picture in terms of that specific source of motivation for me, that it's just everlasting, and again, it never fails me, just knowing what I have to look forward to. But in Matthew's question, he mentioned other people's stories, and I love a good story more than anything else. And so whether that's a YouTube video or reading a book, I sometimes go back and I'll reread the first portion of the book, How to Learn Any Language. Actually, let me go get that for you. So here it is. It's a very simple cover, How to Learn Any Language. So this book is written by Barry Farber. It's a pretty well-known book. It was one of the very first books I got that was specifically just about the art of learning a language. And the funny thing is, the first part of this book is pretty short, but it's a collection of stories from his life and how he acquired a bunch of these different languages that he speaks. And honestly, Barry Farber is a superb storyteller. So I actually never really reread the main chunk of the book, but I will frequently come back and I'll just read some of these just beautiful stories right in the first few pages of this book, and things like that, they keep me going. Now, another thing I do is journaling. So Matthew, you mentioned reflection and also meditation. So I do have a daily meditation practice. That's also a thing that I spoke about a lot in my series about the joys of reading in foreign languages, because that was back when I first began meditation. And actually, just in the last week, I reconstructed a beautiful morning ritual, and part of that is doing meditation. I just did 5 days in a row, and I'm feeling really optimistic. So for me personally, meditation and self-reflection, and then pairing that with journaling, is an incredibly powerful way to stay grounded and stay motivated and inspired to keep learning languages and keep doing what I'm doing. And by the way, of course, this is one of the reasons why I am so ecstatic to finally launch Journaly soon, because for years now, I've been dying for that journaling practice to be a significant and concrete part of my language learning ritual. And so I can't wait to be able to write those journal entries down in different languages and exchange feedback with many of you. And we can all improve together while sharing some of those really intrinsically important moments and thoughts that we have. And I think that will also serve as a great source of motivation for many people, being able to get that insight and that little window into the things that other people are going through. Of course, if they're open to sharing them and publishing them on the platform. Okay, Matthew, I really hope that was helpful. Like I said, life is really busy right now for me, and I think for all of us, especially these last few months with the coronavirus and everything that's been going on, these have been very difficult times. And so these are many of the things that really have kept me just like astoundingly motivated on a daily basis. I go to bed just about every night, ecstatic to wake up again the next day, because I'm so driven to finally finish these projects, to finally finish Journaly, to finally launch my blog at last, so that so much of my time can finally just be alleviated and I can get back to like, oh my God, these books, I love them. I just can't wait for what's waiting for me on the other side of this long journey. And again, just like, I can't wait to finally travel again, but maybe this time, for the first time in my life, not being terrified about how I'm gonna pay for my next meal. I can't wait to go and scout out the nice like secondhand bookshops that I can go and talk to the owners, and I can't wait to go into coffee shops and sit there reading novels and then sort of reach out to people around me and say, hey, can you help me understand this page? I'm having a hard time with this particular sentence. All the things I talked about in this video, I can't wait. And I also can't wait to go back to all those places where I lived before and almost sort of make peace with them. Okay, let me know if that was helpful. I would love to learn about the strategies that many of you use for staying motivated. I would love to hear more of your stories. Recently, some of you have been commenting with your own stories in the comments of the videos, and that's how I like to end my day, and it's a real pleasure to read those. So please keep sharing, keep learning languages, and I'm gonna see you back here tomorrow for day 29 of the Daily Language Diary. Cheers.